Evidence of abuse and torture. That is the conclusion of a human rights report on the treatment of U.S.-held terror suspects in Iraq and Cuba. CNN Pentagon correspondent Barbara Starr is joining us now from Washington. So, Barbara, how credible is this evidence?
Well, Heidi, this is the group Physicians for Human Rights, which conducted medical evaluations on 11 men that were held at Abu Ghraib prison in Iraq and at the U.S. detention facility in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. These physicians say they found evidence that these men had been badly mistreated, tortured, if you will. The report says that there was evidence of, quote, beatings, electrical shock, sleep deprivation, sexual humiliation, and sodomy. Dr. Alan Keller was one of the medical evaluators.
We found clear physical and psychological evidence of torture and abuse, often causing lasting suffering, whether it was scars from brutal beatings or nightmares of sexual humiliations that they endured.
One thing really perhaps worth noting in this report, Heidi, is the foreword, the preface to the report, was written by retired Major General Antonio Taguba. Now, he's the Army general while on active duty that led the Army's own investigation into the Abu Ghraib prison scandal. And in this report, General Taguba says, quote, there is no longer any doubt that the current administration committed war crimes. The only question is whether those who ordered torture will be held into account. Pretty tough words from a man that was very well regarded inside the Army when he conducted the investigation into Abu Ghraib. Now, for its part, the Pentagon continues to say that it deals with detainees in a humane fashion, that there is no policy towards torture, and if there was any misconduct, any abuse, it was in violation of government policy. But this report, clearly a pretty damning indictment if it stands on its own. Heidi?
Will these reports be testimony at some point, hearings on all of this that could be taking place?
Well, you know, there was just that long set of hearings yesterday on Capitol Hill that we covered, where there were the senators who were really trying to get to the question of what was the policy, what was allowed, what was not allowed, and a lot of frustration on Capitol Hill, because now this goes back several years, delving into old documents, who said what in what meeting, perhaps many years ago. So far, of course, some low-level soldiers have been prosecuted for their role at Abu Ghraib, but no senior officer has been held accountable in any of these cases to date. Heidi?
So those proceedings yesterday wrapped up, or are you saying that it's possible things could continue?
Well, I think there's very likely Congress will probably try to continue its role in looking into all of this. But at the moment, the Pentagon still holds publicly firm to the notion there was no policy that condoned torture and abuse. And if it occurred, it was an isolated case by people violating policy. But the bottom line is that to this day, no senior officer has ever been held accountable in any of these cases. Heidi?
All right, we'll continue to watch this one, of course. CNN's Barbara Starr at the Pentagon. Thanks, Barbara.
Sure.